animals are not easy to take care, and they run around. And he also exhibited the character of a leader and being protective. While the animals, like the sheep, were being attacked by wild animals, he had to protect them. He had to, put up with that kind of thing. And of course, he also understands the needs of the animals by showing the care. And this last one is, I think, is the entertaining part. It's basically David knows how to play the music, so he was musical, and also he can entertain people and maybe animals too. Then when he became a man, what is it? When he fought Goliath is when he became a man.
Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, just to add, maybe to clarify, maybe I can get into your minds about the entertainer. I think part of that, yes, he played music, but also he was a worshiper. I think he spent a lot of time outdoors and just overwhelmed by the beauty of God's creation, maybe. And do you see any of these things that served him, these characteristics that he developed when he became king? I'm sure you probably can. Okay. Next one, warrior stage. Okay. All right, Debbie has volunteered or been volunteered. So the warrior stage. This is a pretty long stage in David's life. And try to, if you can, try to think of what characteristics from the shepherd stage you see now in the warrior stage, which you will also see in the king stage. The king stage, in a sense, was hard because it's, in a sense, the culmination of a lot of his development. But Debbie, go ahead and comment on the warrior stage. What did you come up with?
Well, he was a hero he was willing to do. I mean, we can look at a lot of things just when he killed Goliath. We can refer those to him. He was very much a hero then. He had integrity and honoring God when he had mercy on Saul, and he could have killed Saul. He didn't do it out of compassion. I just have so much compassion on this man. I'm going to save his life, but it was because of his integrity, and it was God's anointed. And then he was humble. He was very humble in leading his men, and he was fierce. Like when and I don't know if you guys remember the story, when he was living with the Philistines, running away from Saul, he would go and kill whole Philistine villages and not leave one survivor to be able to go back and tell a Philistine king. He was a protector. He took care of his men well, and when they were hungry, he would make sure they had food and even go to the temple and get food for them. Anyway, he led by example. We feel like he became a man when he killed Goliath.
Thank you. Great, thank you. And we have a spokesman for the king group, Nani. And this was hard because, in a sense, a lot of these characteristics he developed in the earlier stages and were blossomed when he was king. But anyway.
Yeah, his prior training basically from the shepherd stage and from the warrior stage culminates in the king stage and make David a better king actually. And some of the characteristics that we listed here, he's a man who fear of God. He always looks guidance from God in most of everything he did, and he took the burden of the people, and I guess that is one of the characteristics listed here. Debbie mentioned when his man needs food. I mean, he went to the temple to get the food. He pretty much take care of his people. And he's a worshiper, and we all know it's the training that starts from the young, and it blossomed when he became a king. And he likes to promote unity among his people, and he's a man who has a humble heart. And when Nathan pointed to him that his fault, I mean, he admitted it and he asked for God's forgiveness. And the group also agreed that he switched from a boy to a man when he decided to stood up for Goliath. That's it.
Excellent. Well, we've certainly got unanimity on that he became a man when he fought Goliath. So that's interesting. And that, of course, there's no true right or wrong answer to that, but that's just interesting to think about. I was thinking of the idea that if you add a spiritual component, that in a sense, if you divide it between a physical task, a physical test to become a man, it would have been Goliath. What about a spiritual kind of, a spiritual, crossing a spiritual threshold? Anybody have any ideas on that in King David's life? Because I kind of had another idea as well. Goliath is one, maybe on the physical side. What about on the spiritual side? That's what I was thinking. That was very, very important in his life, that when Samuel came and anointed him as king. And this is going to fall again. No. I agree, Willie. When Samuel came and anointed him, I mean, that was a spiritual commissioning as a man, as a leader, showing God's favor. Okay? Great. Yeah, Monique. Uh-huh. When he suited up to fight Goliath? And that was a test in itself, right? Yeah, of his faith and courage. Okay. Yep, obviously. Yeah, that's a good point too. Okay. Mm-hmm.
But when Goliath was talking back about
Got it. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine to mock the armies of the Most High God, yeah. So he had that spiritual, and that was that after? Or that was after he was anointed, wasn't it? So he was anointed first and then, yeah, so. That's a good, interesting thought. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. All right, well, let's go ahead and go forward. On your notes, this is, this part of the seminar is actually taken from John Eldredge's book, the Fathered by God, or Way of the Wild at Heart. And as we go through this, I want you to think of biblical examples of these different stages. And some of these will line up almost exactly with what we talked about with King David. So let's just keep what we talked about with David in mind as we go through this. Okay, so is everybody following along? You can fill. So the idea is that there's characteristics, and then there's a second column, how dads can influence, how dads can shape. Parents too, but often dads. So we're on the first page on that chart of the journey to the masculine journey. So stage, the characteristics, how dads can influence, and then if you would, and this is what we'll share together, biblical models. Think of biblical characters, biblical characters. If you think of somebody that's a great example that's not in the Bible, that's fine too. But especially biblical characters that fit this image, so the beloved son. So we'll just go through this. And according to John Eldredge, this first stage, the stage of the beloved son, is the foundational stage in a boy's life. It is all the other stages that you see there are built, in a sense, upon this foundational stage. Without this stage, we talked about the wound. There's going to be a wound that he's going to carry if this isn't just cemented into the bottom of his heart. So the characteristics here are, he knows he is loved. He knows his dad delights in him. Just like God the Father, this is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased. He's got to know that. I think it's a stage in Eldridge writes that it's a stage of innocence.